what is the short-term rental market like in the Knoxville area? This video is going to specifically talk about Knoxville and Knox County. As you might know, we have a huge rental market going on in the Sevier County area related to the Smoky Mountains. Check out that video for that rental market information. But today we are going to specifically talk about Knoxville and Knox County, like all together. So we're going to look at, in general, what does the short-term rental market look like? And then also Knox County versus Knoxville City. If you're curious to know what the specific Knoxville City rules are, we will talk about that. Go check out that video specific to short-term rental rules in Knoxville City. So that being said, let's dive in and let's learn about the short-term rental market as it stands in late 2023. So as I'm making this video, this is September 2023. So let's look at what the short-term rental market is like in the area. Okay, East Tennessee versus like Knoxville. Knoxville is in East Tennessee. Knoxville is a sistering county to Sevier County. Sevier County and Blount County are where you find areas like Townsend, Wallen, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Dollywood, Sevierville, which Dollywood's not a town, but like it might as well be, right? It's a huge destination, but also the Smoky Mountains are within those counties. So those are huge tourist destinations. Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It is the most visited national park in the United States. 14 million people a year. So that being said, that again, I just want to reiterate when we're talking today, I'm talking only in relation to Knox County, Knoxville City, and Knox County zip code. So Knoxville, the city, is Knox County, but there is a city and then there's a wider county portion. And so there are different rules for those two places, but in general, this is looking at Knox County as a whole. So I just want to be clear about that. Additionally, I am pulling the definition of the short-term rental, what that means, from the Knox County Commission ordinances for the city's website. So this is Knox County from their ordinance website, their definition of a short-term rental unit. So short-term rental unit, a dwelling unit, a portion of a dwelling unit, or any other structure or space that is occupied or intended or designed for occupancy by transients for dwelling, lodging, or sleeping, and which is offered to transients for consideration for a period of up to 30 consecutive days, aka people coming and going 30 days or less. Short-term rental unit shall not include dwelling units owned by the federal government, the state, or any other agencies or political subdivisions, facilities licensed by the state, such as healthcare facilities, including temporary family healthcare structures, hotels, inns, motels, bed and breakfast properly approved by the city, or campgrounds, or dwelling units rented according to a written month-to-month lease, aka anything that's a hotel does not apply to this. Like essentially, it's anything non-government, non-healthcare facility, no motels, no bed and breakfasts, stuff that's already approved by the city, campgrounds, etc. Month-to-month leases, interestingly, not considered. Well, I guess it's not interestingly, but if it's a month-to-month lease, that implies someone's staying there longer than 30 days. So essentially, long story short, when we say short-term rental, we're saying anything less than 30 days. Okay, so overall, I also want to tell you all data I'm going to go over is from a website called AirDNA, which might remind you of Airbnb. So AirDNA is my primary resource for information and stats on short-term rentals. So you can check that out. I actually pay a subscription to get data because I'm a dork. I don't know. I want the information. I want to know everything because when I have a client who wants to know what's happening, what room is better to buy, like if they're thinking about purchasing, should they get a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom or blah, blah, blah. So I just want that information. So all of this data is from AirDNA. So I just want to tell you specifically that. And if you're like, well, what is AirDNA? I'm going to tell you. Essentially, according to their website, AirDNA is the world leader in short-term rental intelligence. Our platform is powered by VRBO and Airbnb data from over 10 million properties. So that's where this data is coming from. So anyways, if you're like, where is this coming from? It's a compilation of VRBO and AirDNA listings. So over 10 million properties, 120,000 markets. So lots of data, right? It is a solid resource. So I just want to point that out if you're like, where is this data coming from? Okay, now that we cleared that up, let's talk about Knoxville. Knoxville has an overall score, according to AirDNA, of 69. That means it's in the 69th percentile, and AirDNA rates it as good. Like that 69 is considered to be a good and strong score. Versus like if we looked at somewhere like Sevierville, what is their score? Well, if we look at Pigeon Forge, their score is an 85. Okay, so I just want to give you some context. Gatlinburg, their score is an 83. So listen to this, by the way. This is not what this video is about, but Alcoa, their score is a 97, 70% occupancy. And I'll tell you what those scores mean. But just so you can have context, Knoxville is not the strongest score like in the area, but AirDNA still rates it as a good market. So that 69th percentile rating is based off 5 factors. So essentially AirDNA looks at investability, rental demand, revenue growth, seasonality, and regulation. So obviously investability, like, are you going to make money? Rental demand, do people actually want to, and I'm dumbing this way down. These are my words. This is not AirDNA's words, but I'm just saying this is how I interpret them for ease. So like I said, investability, like, is it good to invest there? Rental demand, are people actually wanting to rent there? Revenue growth, so is the market growing in terms of the short-term rental market? Seasonality, this would be like how much stuff is rented. So rental demand is like how many people want to rent there. Seasonality is like, do people only come here in the month of October? And the rest of the year, it's like, no one cares. Does that make sense? I love how I'm asking you questions, but like you can't. If you talk back to me, I won't know. So I apologize. It's my teacher. It's the teacher in me. And then I was about to have wait time. Does that make sense? And I would have been waiting here for a really long time. Just saying. And the 5th thing is regulation. So that is like how many rules are in place, how regulated is it? Is it hard? Because there are some cities and markets across the US, and I'm sure across the world, where it's very, very regulated and the rules are super specific. And even like Sevierville and Sevier County, very regulated, extremely regulated. Knoxville, the city, and Knox County Knox County is currently not regulated. We'll get there, but so in comparison, much less regulation than Sevier County, but overall, like in terms of those 5 factors. So the 69th percentile score of those 5 factors, investability, Knoxville is in the 55th percentile, rental demand in the 75th percentile, so high demand, revenue growth, 19th percentile. So that is not great, not amazing. Seasonality, 63rd percentile, so that's decent. And then regulation is 53rd percentile, so about the middle road when it comes to regulation in general, which I think is interesting considering we're talking about like Knoxville City is regulated, Knox County is currently not. So I would think that score would be lower. So it's interesting to think like less regulation, less strict regulation. What does that look like? Okay, so in general, annual overall revenue is down 8% in 2023 when compared to last year. And that's about $40,300 is average annual revenue. And occupancy rate is 58%. So that would be, for example, like if we think about a month is 30 days. Well, if we split that down into what is 60% of 30 days, well, 10% is 3 days times 6, right? 18. So 18 out of 30 days roughly are rented. So that's just a rough guess. So 18 times 10, 180, add 2 more. What is that? 206 or 196. You know what I'm saying. 60% almost occupied. And if you're a math person and you're like, or you're a human calculator like my husband, listen, I used to be a math teacher and that does not mean I'm a human calculator, but you know what I can do is graph quadratic functions. I can graph exponential functions. That's not the point of this, but now I just feel embarrassed because I'm not a human calculator. Anyways, average daily rates, $190. And then revenue per available rental is $111 a day, essentially. Now, all of those numbers, annual revenue, occupancy rate, daily rate, and that revenue per rental on average are all down compared to last year. So I just want to point that out. All of those numbers currently are down. Later, if we're going to look at 2022, it was like business is booming, and we've seen a dip in 2023 of that. So that's overview of like why that 69 score. And just even though all those numbers are down, AirDNA still categorizes the Knoxville area as good in terms of short-term rentals. So if we look at Knoxville, based on AirDNA data, there are 1,057 current short-term rentals, and that is up 25% from last year, which is interesting because if we look at annual revenue down 8%, occupancy rate down 6%, average daily rate down 8%. So those numbers, if we're thinking, okay, well, what's the difference between also supply? Supply has increased, right? So what I am saying is like what would be bad if it was like, okay, supply is up 25%, but annual revenue is down 25% and occupancy rate is down 25%, right? So those numbers being down, I wouldn't necessarily be like, oh my God, it's doom and gloom, because also we're knowing that now there's more supply. And we're going to look at like how much supply where. So essentially where of these that we're talking about, so again, AirDNA is looking at properties listed at either VRBO, AirDNA, or both. It is not including like a third party site, or if it's listed on Craigslist, like it's not including that data. So I want to point that out. So 66% of these listings in Knoxville are on Airbnb exclusively, 8% on VRBO, and 26% are on both. So both, if you're looking at 123 Main Street, it's saying that 26% are on both AirDNA and VRBO. Only 8% are only VRBO, and the rest are on Airbnb exclusively. So that being said, which categories, how big are these rentals? The biggest category in terms of number of bedrooms is 38% of current rentals in the Knoxville area are 1 bedroom, 38%. And I want you to just remember that. The next highest is 29%. So 38 plus 29, what is that? 67%. 67% are either 1 or 2 bedrooms. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to like, what are you thinking you're wanting to invest? Are you wanting to get a 1 bedroom? Are you wanting to get a 2 bedroom? What does the supply look like? So I'm just pointing that kind of out to you. All right. So overall rental growth in the last 3 years is up. So the market itself is up. Active listings are up. Listings by availability. So essentially what it's saying is the number of listings have continued to increase over the last 3 years. You can look at that chart, and then listing by annual availability. So let's see, this is basically saying what percentage are available between 1 to 90 nights, 91 to 180. So like how much availability are these? So only 29%, I thought this was interesting, are available all the time. So I thought that was weird. I'm like, why wouldn't you just have it available all the time? Clearly I'm missing something. You know what I'm saying? And then also interestingly enough, 88% of short-term rentals in the Knoxville area are the entire property. 88%. Now, I just want to point out another like dorky thing is earlier we talked about only 8% are currently of these 1,000 are, so like 80 of these are exclusively listed on VRBO. Okay. And VRBO's marketing is all about, it's the whole property. Well, interestingly, in our area, 88% of our short-term rentals are an entire property. So I just think that's interesting because that marketing doesn't really match. But that's just literally an observation on my side of things that just pops in my mind as I'm going over this with you. Private room, 12%. There is no or are no current short-term rentals AirDNA essentially has another category that is shared room. So their categories are entire home, private room, or shared room. And there are no shared rooms at all listed for short-term rent. And I don't know, like it's not telling me what the demand for that would be. I guess how would you know demand if you're not doing it? It's very interesting, right? A shared room, but who's gonna do that? Anyways, I'm not doing that, okay? Not doing it. Okay, so those are kind of interesting. Also want to point out that a lot of these almost 52% of all of the available rentals in the area do not have a minimum night stay. Well, that's a 1 night minimum, but I mean, what are you doing? Okay, so you gotta, or not, maybe you're not even staying there. I don't know what you're doing in the room, okay? But like 52% have a 1 night minimum, and then it goes up from there. So 7% have a 30 plus night minimum, which is like, that would be more of a midterm rental, whatever. Some of them have a 7 to 29, but that's not the major categories. The major category is 52% have a 1 night minimum stay, and then everything else just decreases from there. 30%, so that accounts for 92% of all short-term rentals in Knoxville have a 1 or 2 night minimum. So anyways, I think that's I think that's positive, just because that means there's more options for people that are wanting to have a short-term rental here. All right, let's talk about occupancy. So overall, we kind of addressed this a little bit already. Occupancy is down, but we did talk about how there's more supply than there was this time last year, about 25% more. Occupancy currently is 58%. So again, that means out of 30 days in a month, roughly 18 are rented. And if you want an exact number, here's my other cell phone, AKA my other calculator, because I'm recording on my actual phone. So 58%, 0.58 times 30 is 17.4, right? It's pretty close. So just under 18 days. So if we look at for the year, if we say 365 times 0.58, we get 212 days essentially. So anyways, that being said, about 60% occupancy. This is kind of weird. Booking lead time, 49 days. So that's how far out in advance people are booking. And that's actually down as well. That's an interesting stat. I don't know that it necessarily matters, but it's also telling me that people that are coming here are planning somewhat ahead, 49 days ahead. So just over a month and a half. Anyways, and also occupancy rate, typically on average 3 days. So the other thing that I wanted to show you is over the past 5 years, we have seen demand increase. So if you look at the graph from 2018 to today, we do see, yes, demand has increased. And then overall booked properties, interestingly, it's kind of this like lagging indicator of like nights booked and booked properties, whatever. So you can check out that graph. And then average overall revenue is $40,000 essentially. For those properties that are the entire place, it's a little bit higher. So about $43,600. And then for a house, so like an entire townhome or apartment or condo, like downtown, average would be $43,600 versus if it's a house, you're looking at $40,600, and if it's an apartment, that would be $40,600. So an entire place is the highest that you would be able to, is the highest annual revenue, according to AirDNA. Next up, let's talk about how much revenue do listings earn by bedroom. So this is interesting because there's 2 graphs I want you to look at. One is showing how much revenue by bedroom, and like the 1 bedrooms are the lowest revenue, but also if you look at active listings, they are the highest amount of active listings. AKA suggestion, do not add another single bedroom short-term rental to the market because your revenue is not as great, and it's by bedroom, right? So, and obviously a 1 bedroom implies like less amenities and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just telling you, the most supply we have is in the 1 bedroom category. What's the next highest one, do you think? The 2 bedroom category. And also, what's the second highest revenue by bedroom or second lowest revenue by bedroom? the 2-bedroom. So my suggestion would be, where do we see less supply and more demand? So like there's very little 6+ bedroom, 5+ bedroom availability of these. And who's getting highest revenue per bedroom? 5-bedroom and 6-bedroom. Now, obviously that is a higher initial investment. So I do acknowledge that you're getting into a 5-bedroom and a 6-bedroom property for a lot more money than what you're getting into a 1-bedroom property for. But I just want to also point out that there is a lot more saturation or supply when it comes to 1 and 2-bedroom availability of short-term rentals. So unless you're getting a steal of a deal, I have a client that says like you make your money when you purchase it. AKA, unless you are purchasing at the right price, like if it's not an obvious deal on the front end, then I would be like super scrutinizing. And if you're thinking, okay, we're going to stay in this for 1 or 2 years, or maybe we're not even familiar with the market or whatever, like I would be cautious about overpaying, for example, for like a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, if that makes sense. Okay, so average daily rate is $190 per night. Here's something interesting. Luxury listings are getting $348,000 per night. All of these amounts are down, but again, remembering that we do have more supply. So I don't take any of these as major, but also I want to point out that those that are professionally managed, according to AirDNA, so on average of everything of the 1,057 that AirDNA and VRBO is able to track and is saying in the Knoxville area, $190 on average per night. That number is down 8%. Now, those that are professionally managed, on average, $231 a night, and that number is only down 4%. Now, you might be like, okay, well, Haley, how much would I be paying for someone to professionally manage my short-term rental? Okay, so $231.5. Okay, so $231, if that's the average if someone is professionally managing it. Okay, so let's say you pay them 30% off the top to manage it. So if I just do 231 times 0.7, that leaves you 70%. So that's 162 you're taking away. And 30% is like high end. Okay, now, again, we're not talking about the Sevier County market. We're not talking about any of that. So that would be 162.50 that you're taking away after everything. Well, then that's when you ask yourself, in order to self-manage, you would be making probably on average $190 a night. Okay, so then that's a $30 difference per night. So are you cleaning the sheets yourself? Are you taking calls in the middle of the night when the Wi-Fi is out? Like all of that stuff. I just want to point out to you that, yeah, you are making $162 a night if professionally managed, but also if they are showing like, okay, they have more solid revenue stream compared to those that are self-managed, which are down 8%, or the average is down 8%, whereas professionally managed are down 4%. What is what is your time cost? And maybe all you do is manage short-term rentals, and maybe that's like what you're gonna do. Which in that case, it would make sense that maybe you don't use a professional management company. But I just want to point out that those people that, if you got a full-time job or you got other stuff going on, it doesn't make sense for you to be like washing the sheets, going to get the sheets, doing this, doing that, answering the calls. Oh, the Wi-Fi is out. Ooh, the refrigerator's dead. The ice maker's broken, whatever. Or maybe I'm just not patient. Like, I don't want to deal with that nonsense. Okay, so to me, it's worth it to pay that management company because they're going to field all that stuff and they're just going to send me a check. Okay. Anyways, that's my personal opinion. Okay, a couple other things. I want to wrap this up quickly because I'm about to be over my time limit. My editors told me my videos are too long, so okay, I'm working on it. Okay, so again, just want to point out, when you look at average daily rates over the past 5 years, we do see that 2023 is higher than almost every other year besides last year, 2022. 2022 is almost more revenue or average daily rate higher than almost the entirety of 2023 so far. So 2022, interestingly, you see a drop off, which most of these years dropped off in like October. It goes psh. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2023 if October is going to dip further again. So those are some stats about the area. I also want to point out that what time of year is the highest revenue per available rental. So overall, October, according to AirDNA, is the strongest month. The overall revenue per rental in general, $111. Weekend revenue per rental is $216. And the weekend revenue is interestingly down only 5%. So I think that's kind of interesting to think on the weekends, we're still performing pretty strongly, even though we have a 24% bump in supply. So again, that shows that, okay, there's some strength here. There's some opportunity here in the overall market. The last piece of this is to show you that you can check out the graphs where it's showing what months are most rented. And again, that looks like October, September, November. What happens then on the weekends? Football time in Tennessee. And then some of the summer months, June, July, pretty strong. But you can notice September, October, those weekend months look pretty strong. January looks pretty dead. Okay, so also want to talk about the top 5 sub markets. So that would be number 1, 37915, which is essentially like the old city and some river frontage. $47,000 annual revenue, 56% occupancy. 37923, which is Hardin Valley, is the second highest rated. Bearden and West Hills 37909. Followed by 37917, which is the North Knoxville area. So that is where Yeehaw Brewing is, Central Avenue, Glowing Body. And then number 5, strongest, is downtown. So that's the Gay Street Market Square area. And that actually has the highest revenue. So it's kind of weird that it's ranked 5. But I think that's probably because of regulation. So that's just a side note to all that. And then the other thing to wrap this up, again, we're not talking about rules in Knoxville versus Knox County. Currently, at the time of this video, only Knoxville City is regulated. And essentially what that means, the short version of this, check out the video of the rules itself, what the process is and all that. But the short version of this is you have to have a permit in order to be within the law, okay? To be lawful as a short-term rental person, owner, whatever. You have to have a permit. The permit, you apply, etc. You get the permit. You got to renew it every year. There are 3 different categories of permits. And then there's things underneath that are this is what you can and cannot do. This is not in relation to HOA, deed restrictions, etc. These are just Knoxville City rules. You got to have a permit. And then again, that doesn't address if there's an HOA or a deed restriction or whatever. That's something totally not related, but it is important, which we'll talk about that on when if you want to know more how do the rules work, how does that work, go see that video about the rules. And then also, as I said, at the making of this video, Knox County, end of August, several weeks ago, this is September 20th, 2023, at that time, there is no regulation for Knox County. However, the county commission recently met at the end of August to determine if they want to put rules in place. And that would be things like requiring a permit, requiring a business license, limiting occupancy or occupants, and then establishing enforceable violations. So currently not any regulation in the county, out in the county, but it is in talks at the making of this video. So if you're Haley, you said there's no rules. I just want to disclaim to you that at the time of this video, I think it's probably going to happen. So anyways, that is an overview look at what's happening in the short-term rental market in the Knoxville area. A couple takeaways. There is certainly opportunity. AirDNA is rating this market as good, not excellent, not horrible, not bad, not okay. They're saying, okay, this is a good market. We see that occupancy is about 60%. And we also see that weekends outperform every other time. And those weekends in the fall, on average, are seeming to be the most occupied. And then the last thing that I want to point out is think about how much you want to invest, what you're trying to get out of it, and how much occupancy do you want. So if you're going to overpay for a 1-bedroom in order for it to be a short-term rental, I would caution you. So, and again, that's all just kind of based on the data, what's happening, what's being rented, how much supply is there. So we are seeing that, yes, the fact that there's a 24 to 25% increase in number of short-term rental listings overall in Knoxville tells us, okay, yeah, people are coming into the market. The supply is increasing. We haven't seen a drop in revenue that mirrors the supply. So people are coming here. Short-term renting is happening, but just be smart about what you're deciding to invest in. So anyways, that is all for a general overview of what is happening in the current short-term rental market in the Knoxville area. Again, check out the video about specific rules and regulations and what that process in general looks like. So that is all for now. If you want more content like this, as always, please subscribe, and I would love to share more information with you. I'm Haley Jones, and I'll see you on the next video.